Have you ever wondered why your blood sugar keeps spiking even when you think you're eating healthy? You skip desserts, you drink diet sodas, and still your energy crashes, your cravings return, and your doctor warns you about borderline diabetes. The truth is, the biggest threats aren't the obvious sweets. They're the hidden enemies hiding in your everyday meals. These are the foods that pretend to be harmless, sometimes even healthy, but in reality, they're silently wreaking havoc on your blood sugar every single day. And today, I want to reveal these 5 foods, explain how they trick your body, and most importantly, show you how to stop the roller coaster and regain control over your blood sugar naturally. Imagine this for a moment. You eat your morning toast, maybe add a little jam or honey, perhaps have a glass of orange juice.
Hi, welcome to today's health tip. Today let's talk about calcium. We know that the body needs calcium to maintain strong bones and healthy teeth. There are many sources of calcium. For example, leafy green vegetables, dairy products, and other sources. Be sure to talk to your nutritionist about your needs. Here's wishing you a happy and healthy day.
Cereal is being broken down into tiny molecules of glucose or sugar. Your bloodstream doesn't care whether that glucose came from a candy bar or a slice of whole wheat bread. Sugar is sugar, and your body reacts the same way. When glucose enters your bloodstream, your body calls for insulin. Insulin is like a key. It unlocks your cells and allows glucose to enter, where it can be used as energy. This process is perfectly natural. It's how the body maintains balance. But here's where the trouble begins. In today's world, we're constantly eating. From the moment we wake up until we go to bed, there's a steady flow of glucose entering the bloodstream. Breakfast, snacks, lunch, coffee with sugar, a few bites of something sweet after dinner. Each time, the pancreas must release insulin to handle it. Over time, the body starts to drown in insulin. Now imagine you're trying to knock on a door, but you never stop knocking. Eventually, the person inside gets tired of hearing it and stops answering. That's exactly what happens with insulin. When insulin levels remain high all the time, your cells stop responding properly. They become resistant. The key no longer fits the lock as it once did. To compensate, the pancreas produces even more insulin, desperately trying to force the door open. It's a vicious cycle. High blood sugar leads to high insulin, and high insulin leads to insulin resistance, which then leads to even higher blood sugar. This is what many people experience every single day without realizing it. They feel tired after eating, they crave sugar or snacks every few hours, and they gain weight around the belly. Most think it's a problem of self-control. They blame themselves. But it's not about willpower. It's about biology. The body is simply reacting to a constant overload of sugar from foods that were never meant to be eaten so frequently. Our ancestors didn't eat every few hours. They didn't have sugary breakfasts or sweetened coffee or snacks packed with hidden carbs. They ate whole foods, often with long gaps between meals, giving the body time to rest and rebalance. Insulin wasn't constantly turned on. That's why they didn't struggle with the same metabolic problems we see today. What's changed is not the human body. It's our diet, our habits, and the constant availability of processed foods that raise blood sugar faster than the body can handle. Most people think sugar only comes from obvious sources, desserts, candies, or sodas, but that's the trap. The real danger lies in the foods we believe to be healthy. Breakfast cereals, whole grain breads, fruit juices, energy bars, all marketed as nutritious, yet they cause the same spikes in blood sugar as a piece of cake. These are the hidden sugars, and they're everywhere. They're in our sauces, our snacks, and even our low-fat foods. Because when food manufacturers take out the fat, they often add sugar to make it taste better. It's a system designed to trick both our taste buds and our metabolism. Every time your blood sugar spikes, insulin rises. Then your blood sugar crashes and you feel hungry again. You reach for another snack, maybe something sweet or starchy, and the cycle starts again. Over weeks, months, and years, this constant roller coaster keeps your insulin high, your energy unstable, and your fat burning system switched off. Your body never gets the chance to tap into its stored energy because it's always busy managing the next glucose surge. The problem isn't that people don't try hard enough to eat well. The problem is that they've been messled about what healthy eating really means. We've been told to eat low fat foods, to snack often, to keep our energy up, and to focus on calories instead of hormones. But the body doesn't run on calorie math. It runs on hormonal balance. And insulin is the master hormone that decides whether we store fat or burn it. When insulin is high, fat storage is turned on. When insulin drops, the body finally begins to burn stored energy. So when we talk about controlling blood sugar, we're really talking about controlling insulin. The goal isn't to completely avoid carbohydrates or starve yourself. It's to understand which foods cause the biggest spikes and to give your body periods of rest, moments when insulin can finally come down. Because once insulin drops, your cells start to listen again. Sensitivity returns. The body begins to heal naturally. It's not a complicated process, but it does require awareness. Awareness of how our everyday foods, those so-called healthy choices, might be silently pushing our insulin higher and higher. Once you start to see the pattern, you can't unsee it. The fatigue, the cravings, the stubborn weight. It all makes sense when you realize what's happening beneath the surface. The truth is, our bodies are incredibly intelligent. They're not broken. They're simply reacting to a modern diet that keeps insulin permanently switched on. The solution isn't in another restrictive diet or magic supplement. It's in understanding the biology and working with it. When we start to question what we've been told, when we see the hidden sugars for what they are, that's when real change begins. Because if you don't know who the enemy is, you can't win the fight. And in this case, the enemies are much closer than we think, sitting right there on our breakfast tables, labeled as healthy, quietly spiking our blood sugar day after day. For most people, breakfast feels like the start of a healthy day. You wake up, pour yourself a bowl of cereal, maybe add some milk, or grab a granola bar on the way out the door. It's quick, convenient, and often marketed as nutritious. The boxes promise energy, fiber, and even heart health. You believe you're making a good choice, the kind that sets the tone for a productive morning. But what if that innocent-looking bowl of cereal is doing the exact opposite? What if it's quietly setting you up for fatigue, cravings, and blood sugar chaos before the day even begins when you eat cereal, granola, or instant oatmeal? Your body immediately starts breaking them down into glucose. Even those labeled whole grain or no added sugar often contain processed carbohydrates that digest rapidly. The body doesn't distinguish much between a spoonful of sugar and a spoonful of refined grain once digestion begins. They both end up as glucose in the bloodstream. That's why your blood sugar can spike as quickly from a bowl of cereal as it does from eating dessert. These foods might not taste overly sweet, but your body experiences them as if they were here's what happens next. The moment glucose floods your bloodstream, your pancreas releases insulin to pull that sugar into your cells for energy. But because the surge happens so fast, your body overacts, sending out a large wave of insulin to bring the levels down. Within an hour or two, blood sugar crashes, leaving you tired, irritable, and hungry again. That's when you reach for another snack or another cup of coffee. It's the beginning of a daily cycle that most people don't recognize. Energy highs and lows, all driven by the foods we're told are good for us. Take a common example. A popular cereal advertised as heart healthy because it's made with whole grains and fortified with vitamins. It sounds good, but if you check the label, you'll find a long list of sugars under different names: malt syrup, corn syrup solids, or honey flavoring. Even the grains themselves, once ground and processed, act like sugar inside the body. On the glycemic index, a measure of how quickly a food raises blood sugar, these cereals often score higher than a chocolate bar. In other words, your breakfast might be spiking your blood sugar more than your dessert ever could. Now, compare that to a breakfast built on real, unprocessed foods, say eggs cooked in olive oil with half an avocado or a piece of salmon with vegetables. The glycemic impact is almost negligible. Blood sugar stays stable, insulin stays low, and you feel satisfied for hours. There's no crash, no mid-morning craving, no need for a sugary coffee to stay awake. This difference isn't about calories, it's about hormones. The cereal might have fewer calories than eggs, but the hormonal response it triggers, especially insulin, is far more damaging. Insulin doesn't just regulate blood sugar, it's also the hormone that signals the body to store fat. So when you spike insulin first thing in the morning, you set the stage for fat storage, not fat burning. All day long, it's like lighting a small fire in your metabolism every morning and then pouring gasoline on it before it can settle. The body never gets a chance to find balance. That's why so many people feel hungry just 2 or 3 hours after eating breakfast. They think they have a weak appetite control or a fast metabolism, but in truth, it's a blood sugar crash created by the wrong kind of meal. The cereal companies know this too. They design products that make you crave more of the same foods later, and they call it part of a balanced breakfast. It's a clever illusion that keeps you coming back for more. Instant oatmeal is another trap. It seems wholesome, especially with a picture of oats and fruit on the box. But once oats are processed to cook faster, their structure changes. The body digests them almost instantly, leading to the same blood sugar spike as eating a sweet snack. Add a bit of brown sugar, honey, or fruit syrup on top, and you've turned breakfast into a metabolic roller coaster. Even granola, often labeled natural or organic, is usually baked with sugar, honey, or syrup to make it crunchy and appealing. A single bowl can contain as much sugar as a donut, yet it's sold as a health food. The reason this matters isn't just about weight gain. When your insulin spikes early in the day, your body gets locked into storage mode. High insulin blocks fat burning and tells your cells to hold on to energy instead of releasing it. You end up feeling sluggish because your body can't access its stored fuel. Over time, this constant insulin surge leads to insulin resistance, where the body becomes numb to insulin's signal and needs more of it to do the same job. This is the first step toward type 2 diabetes, and it often begins not with desserts, but with breakfast. Many people find that when they swap their high-carb breakfast for a protein-rich, low-carb alternative, everything changes. Their hunger decreases, their focus improves, and their energy remains steady throughout the day. It's not a coincidence, it's physiology. The fewer spikes you create, the more stable your hormones remain. Stable insulin means stable energy and better fat metabolism. The key is to start the day with foods that don't trick your system. Eggs, avocados, nuts, plain Greek yogurt, or even skipping breakfast altogether if you're not hungry. These choices allow insulin to stay
Hi,
low,
welcome to today's health tip. Today let's talk about calcium. We know that the body needs calcium to maintain strong bones and healthy teeth. There are many sources of calcium. For example, leafy green vegetables, dairy products, and other sources. Be sure to talk to your nutritionist about your needs. Here's wishing you a happy and healthy day.
Ancestors didn't wake up to cereal boxes or flavored oats. They ate when they were hungry and relied on real foods, not processed ones. The morning meal should set the rhythm for the rest of the day, not send you on a metabolic roller coaster. If you begin your day by flooding your bloodstream with sugar, your body spends the entire day chasing balance it can't quite achieve. When you understand this, you see breakfast differently. You realize that what's marketed as healthy can, in reality, be the most deceptive and damaging meal of the day. Once you break that cycle, you give your body the chance to restore balance, something no box of cereal can ever do. There's a familiar scene that plays out in millions of homes every day. Someone decides to get healthy. They clear out the chips, cookies, and sodas and replace them with protein bars, fruit smoothies, and low-fat yogurt. They believe they're making the right changes, the kind that health experts recommend. But a few weeks later, they notice something strange. They're still tired, their cravings haven't gone away, and their blood sugar readings haven't improved. They're confused because they're doing everything right. This is the silent trap of so-called healthy snacks. The foods that look good on the outside but behave like sugar bombs once they enter your bloodstream. The food industry has mastered the art of deception. It knows that people want to eat better, but it also knows that we crave sweetness. So it repackages sugar in a healthier disguise. A protein bar might claim to have 20 grams of protein, but if you read the fine print, you'll see just as much sugar or refined carbohydrate. Flavored yogurts often have more sugar than ice cream. Smoothies that look fresh and natural can contain as much sugar as a soda. And fruit juices, even the ones labeled 100% natural, are some of the worst offenders. When you remove the fiber from fruit, what's left is essentially liquid sugar that hits the bloodstream like a surge. Here's where biology takes over. The moment liquid sugar enters your system, your body doesn't have time to slow it down. Normally, when you eat a piece of fruit, the fiber acts as a barrier, releasing glucose gradually. But juice or a sweetened smoothie floods your bloodstream almost instantly. Your pancreas responds by releasing a large burst of insulin to control the spike. The higher and faster the spike, the more insulin your body must produce. And as we've already seen, when insulin stays high for too long, your cells start to ignore it. Over time, that's how insulin resistance develops. There's a common story I often share because it's something I've seen over and over again. A patient decides to quit soda because they know it's full of sugar. They start drinking fruit smoothies instead. Banana, mango, a little yogurt, maybe some honey for flavor. It feels healthy, it tastes good, and it looks colorful enough to post online. But after a few weeks, nothing changes. Their blood sugar still fluctuates wildly, their hunger never stabilizes, and they can't seem to lose weight. The reason is simple. Their body doesn't care whether the sugar came from a can of soda or a blender of fruit. The metabolic effect is almost identical. The glucose spike is just as strong, and the insulin response just as aggressive. Even drinks like sweetened teas, sports drinks, or flavored waters can have the same effect. These liquids don't fill you up, yet they deliver a huge dose of sugar that requires an equally large insulin response. You end up hungry again soon after, not because your body needs more calories, but because insulin has already swept the sugar out of your blood, leaving you with that sudden drop in energy and a craving for more food. This is how the cycle of snacking begins and why it never truly satisfies. The other deception lies in the low fat label. Decades ago, people were told that fat was the enemy. Companies rushed to remove fat from their products, but when they did, something strange happened. The food tasted bland. To make it appealing again, they added sugar. So, what you get in many low-fat products is not healthier food, but sugar in disguise. Yogurt is a classic example. Plain yogurt with natural fat is stable and satisfying, but take away the fat and add flavorings, and you've created a dessert pretending to be breakfast. The sugar may come in the form of fruit puree syrup, or even evaporated cane juice, but the effect on insulin is the same constant snacking compounds the problem. The human body was never designed to be in a fed state all the time. Every time you eat, even something small, insulin rises. When you snack frequently throughout the day, insulin never has a chance to drop. It's like leaving a light switch permanently on. Eventually, the bulb burns out. Your metabolism works the same way. It needs periods of rest to repair, reset, and become sensitive to insulin again. That's why Dr. Fung often talks about fasting, not as deprivation, but as a natural rhythm the body thrives on. Fasting is not about starving yourself. It's about allowing insulin to fall so the body can use stored energy instead of constantly demanding new fuel. Think about how the modern eating pattern works. Breakfast at 7, a snack at 10, lunch at 1, another snack at 3, dinner at 7, and maybe dessert at 9. That's 6 or 7 insulin spikes every single day. The body never enters a true fasting state, never taps into fat stores, and never gets a break. It's no wonder energy levels fluctuate so much. By contrast, when people reduce snacking and eat real meals made of whole foods, foods with healthy fats, protein, and minimal sugar, their blood sugar stabilizes naturally. Hunger decreases not because they're eating less, but because their hormones are finally balanced. One of the biggest misconceptions about snacks is that they help boost metabolism. The truth is the opposite. Constant eating keeps insulin elevated, and high insulin tells the body to store, not burn. When insulin is high, fat stays locked away, and you rely entirely on incoming sugar for energy. That's why when someone skips a snack, they feel shaky or tired. Their body has forgotten how to burn its own stored energy. But once you lower insulin consistently, the body relearns that skill. It starts drawing from its reserves, and that's when stable energy and fat loss begins. So many people think they're eating healthy because they've replaced junk food with snack bars, fruit drinks, or yogurt cups, yet their metabolism remains stuck. The labels may say organic, natural, or low fat, but those words don't change how insulin responds. The body doesn't read marketing claims, it reads chemistry. Every bite or sip that raises blood sugar also raises insulin, and every unnecessary spike pushes you closer to insulin resistance. Understanding this is the first step to breaking free from the snack trap. When you start paying attention to how your body feels instead of what the packaging says, the pattern becomes obvious. You realize that your so-called healthy snacks are the reason you never feel full, the reason your energy crashes, and the reason your progress stalls. Once you step away from the constant grazing and give your body time to rest, everything begins to change. Energy returns, cravings fade, and blood sugar finally steadies. Not because you're eating less, but because you've stopped feeding the problem every few hours. Most people don't realize that some of the most common foods on their plates act almost exactly like sugar once they enter the body. They don't taste sweet, they don't look like desserts, and yet they trigger the same biological response. White rice, white bread, pasta, and even many gluten-free products all fall into this category. They've been stripped of their natural fiber, their texture softened, and their nutrients removed, leaving behind a concentrated form of starch. When you eat them, your digestive system breaks them down rapidly into glucose, flooding your bloodstream just as if you'd eaten spoonfuls of sugar. That's why these foods are called refined. They've been refined for convenience and texture, but at the cost of your metabolic health picture, a bowl of white rice. It seems harmless, even clean and simple. But metabolically, that bowl can behave like 10 teaspoons of sugar once digested. The difference is only in taste, not in effect. When you eat rice, your blood sugar rises quickly. In response, insulin spikes to move the glucose into your cells. At first, this might make you feel satisfied, even energized. But a couple of hours later, as insulin finishes its job and blood sugar drops, fatigue sets in. You feel hungry again, maybe a little foggy or irritable, and the craving for another carbohydrate hit appears. So you reach for bread, noodles, or something sweet to lift you up again. This becomes a repeating pattern, a daily loop of sugar highs and crashes that keeps insulin elevated all day long. The tricky part is that most people don't associate these foods with sugar. They think of rice and pasta as staples, not sweets. But your body doesn't distinguish between the two. It's chemistry, not opinion. The faster your body can digest a carbohydrate, the faster it becomes glucose. That's why refined foods are so problematic. They digest almost instantly. Without fiber to slow the process, your blood sugar spikes higher and faster. Over time, these constant surges of insulin wear down the system. The cells start to ignore insulin's message, forcing the pancreas to release even more. This is how insulin resistance quietly builds. Meal after meal, year after year, many people try to make these foods healthier by choosing gluten-free versions, thinking they're making a better choice. But most gluten-free products are made from refined starches like rice flour, tapioca starch, or potato starch, ingredients that raise blood sugar even faster than wheat. Gluten-free doesn't mean sugar-free. It doesn't even mean healthy. It's just another disguise, another way the food industry markets to well, meaning consumers trying to do the right thing. The label changes, but the metabolic effect remains the same for decades. People have been told to eat low, fat, and high carb. That advice was built on the idea that fat makes you fat and carbohydrates are a clean source of energy. But that guidance ignored one crucial factor, how insulin works. When insulin is constantly stimulated by high carb foods, the body shifts into storage mode. It stores energy instead of burning it. Fat doesn't make you fat, insulin does. And what raises insulin more than anything else is not fat or protein, but refined carbohydrates. The misunderstanding wasn't about willpower or discipline. It was about human physiology. We were told to eat in a way that keeps insulin high all the time, and now we see the results. Fatigue, obesity,
Hi, welcome
diabetes,
to today's health tip. Today let's talk about calcium. We know that the body needs calcium to maintain strong bones and healthy teeth. There are many sources of calcium, for example, leafy green vegetables, dairy products, and other sources. Be sure to talk to your nutritionist about your needs. Here's wishing you a happy and healthy day.
Response to the sharp rise and fall of insulin. The energy from these foods burns quickly, leaving your body searching for more fuel. In contrast, when you eat a meal that includes healthy fats, protein, and fiber, blood sugar stays stable. You feel full longer because insulin doesn't surge and crash. That's why a meal of grilled chicken, vegetables, and olive oil can keep you satisfied for hours, while a bowl of pasta leaves you raiding the pantry soon after. The real trap with refined white foods is how normal they've become. They're in every kitchen, every restaurant, every celebration. They're inexpensive, convenient, and comforting. But beneath that comfort lies a biochemical storm. Every time you eat them, You're asking your body to release insulin, again and again, never giving it rest. Insulin's job is to move sugar into cells, but when it's constantly working, the body forgets how to respond properly. It's like being shouted at all day long. You eventually tune it out. That's what insulin resistance is, and it's the foundation of nearly every metabolic disease we see today. When you start to view these foods through that lens, everything changes. You begin to see that it's not about calories or portion size. It's about hormonal impact. A small serving of white rice can raise insulin more than a large serving of vegetables cooked in butter. The body's response is what matters, not the number printed on the calorie chart. Once you understand this, the path to healing becomes clearer. You don't have to give up every carbohydrate, but you do have to be selective. Choose foods that digest slowly, that come with fiber and natural fats, that let insulin rise gently and fall easily. This is why cultures that eat traditional, unprocessed foods, where grains are whole, meals are balanced, and eating isn't constant, tend to have lower rates of diabetes and obesity. It's not magic, it's metabolism. When we eat as nature intended, our hormones stay balanced. When we eat what's convenient and refined, they spiral out of control. The human body hasn't changed, but our food supply has. We've traded slow, nourishing meals for fast, insulin, spiking ones, and our health reflects that trade. The solution isn't found in the next low fat product or trendy diet, but in returning to simplicity. The more refined a food is, the faster it turns into sugar. The more natural and whole it is, the gentler its impact. And when you allow your body to rest between meals, when insulin has time to drop, your system starts to heal. Fiber, fat, and fasting are not enemies. They are the allies that restore balance to a body overwhelmed by too many white coats in disguise. If there's one thing that can send your blood sugar soaring faster than anything else, it's liquid sugar. It doesn't matter whether it comes from soda, a sweetened latte, or a so-called healthy smoothie. When sugar is dissolved in liquid form, it enters your bloodstream almost instantly. There's no fiber to slow it down, no chewing to give your body a chance to prepare. It's like injecting sugar straight into your system. The result is a sharp spike in glucose, followed by an equally sharp crash. And yet, these are some of the most common things people consume daily without thinking twice about them. The body is designed to handle food slowly. When you eat, the digestive process gives your brain and hormones time to react, to release insulin gradually. But when sugar comes in liquid form, it bypasses those natural controls. The pancreas is forced to release a surge of insulin to bring the sugar under control. That's why people who drink sweetened beverages often feel an immediate burst of energy, followed by fatigue, irritability, or hunger just an hour or two later. It's not dehydration, it's a blood sugar crash. What makes it worse is that liquids don't make you feel full. You can drink hundreds of calories of sugar without realizing it, and your body still signals hunger because those calories never register the same way as solid food. Think about how many drinks fit this pattern. Sodas are the obvious culprit, but the real trap is the drinks that appear healthy or harmless. Sweetened coffee drinks, energy drinks, fruit punches, flavored waters, and even some hydration. Beverages all carry large amounts of sugar. A single bottle of a popular sports drink can contain more sugar than a donut. A flavored iced coffee might have the equivalent of 10 teaspoons of sugar, sometimes more than a dessert. The difference is that we don't think of them as treats. We think of them as refreshments. And because they don't feel indulgent, they're consumed daily, sometimes several times a day. Imagine pouring sugar into your morning coffee, then again into your mid-afternoon iced drink, and again in your evening soda. It's not what you eat occasionally that keeps insulin high. It's what you sip every day. These constant liquid sugar hits keep insulin locked in the on position. The body never gets the chance to burn stored energy because it's always flooded with new glucose to process. Over time, this leads to a condition where the body is constantly storing, never releasing, which is why even small changes, like switching from sweet drinks to water, can have such a dramatic impact on metabolism. But sugary drinks aren't the only liquid traps. Many people are shocked to learn how much sugar hides in condiments and sauces. Ketchup, for example, seems harmless, but a single tablespoon can contain a teaspoon of sugar. Most people don't stop at one. Barbecue sauce salad dressings, teriyaki marinades, and even so-called light sauces are often loaded with sugar or corn syrup to enhance flavor and shelf life. Then there's flavored coffee creamer, one of the most deceptive of all. Just 2 tablespoons, what most people casually pour into their coffee, can equal 3 teaspoons of sugar. Multiply that by a few cups of coffee, and you've consumed the sugar equivalent of a soda before noon. These small, hidden doses add up throughout the day. You might avoid desserts and think you're being disciplined, but the sauces, beverages, and dressings are quietly keeping your insulin high. This constant drip of sugar doesn't just affect weight. It affects energy, mood, and even hunger control. High insulin blocks fat burning and increases cravings, which is why people who rely on sweetened drinks and sauces often feel hungry again soon after eating. The cycle continues: spike, crash, crave, repeat. And because the sugar is liquid or hidden, it often goes unnoticed. The truth is, liquid sugar is the most dangerous form because it bypasses the body's natural fullness mechanisms. When you eat, your stomach stretches and hormones tell your brain that you're full. But when you drink your calories, those signals don't activate the same way. You can consume massive amounts of sugar without ever feeling satisfied. That's why sugary drinks are strongly linked to obesity and diabetes. Your body can't regulate them properly. In fact, studies show that people who regularly drink sweetened beverages have much higher fasting insulin levels than those who don't, even when total calorie intake is the same. It's not about how much you eat. It's about how often you stimulate insulin. Replacing these drinks doesn't have to be complicated. Water, sparkling water, black coffee, and herbal teas all give your body a break from constant insulin stimulation. Even adding a slice of lemon or cucumber can make water more refreshing without raising blood sugar. The goal isn't perfection, it's awareness. Once you understand how these liquid sugars affect your body, you start noticing them everywhere. You begin to see that many of the foods and drinks labeled as light, low fat, or refreshing are anything but. The labels don't protect you from insulin spikes. Only informed choices do. It's easy to underestimate the power of small daily habits. A single soda here or a flavored coffee, there doesn't seem like much. But the cumulative effect of those habits, every sip, every sauce, every sweetened drink, is what keeps the metabolic fire burning out of control. On the flip side, when people make the decision to cut back on liquid sugar, the change is often dramatic. Energy improves, cravings fade, and weight starts to shift without any other major dietary change. The body finally gets the message that insulin can rest. And once that happens, healing begins. Awareness is what transforms health. You don't have to avoid every drop of sugar forever, but you do need to see it clearly for what it is. When you start noticing how much of your daily sugar comes not from food, but from what you drink and drizzle, you begin to take back control. It's not about giving up flavor or pleasure. It's about understanding the trade-off. Every sweet sip has a cost, and every time you choose differently, you give your body the chance to recover. The real change doesn't start with restriction, it starts with recognition. Once you see these liquid traps and sweet deceptions for what they truly are, you can make choices that finally set your metabolism free for years. We've been told that controlling blood sugar is about willpower, about eating less, counting calories, and exercising more. But if that worked, no one would still be struggling. The truth is, the body isn't broken. It's just overwhelmed. When insulin is constantly triggered by hidden sugars and frequent eating, the body never gets the chance to rest or repair. Understanding this is the first step toward freedom. Because once you realize it's not about cutting everything out, but about giving your body time to reset, everything begins to change. Think of insulin like a switch. When it's turned on, the body stores energy. When it's turned off, the body burns energy. Most of us live in a world where the switch is always on. From morning coffee with sugar to snacks and late night meals, insulin never gets a break. But when you stop feeding that constant cycle, even for a few hours, your metabolism can finally start to recover. This is the foundation of intermittent fasting. It's not starvation, it's restoration. It's allowing your body to do what it was designed to do, alternate between feeding and fasting, storing and burning. Without interference, you don't have to overhaul your entire diet overnight. The most powerful changes are often the simplest ones. Start by cutting back on the hidden enemies, those refined carbs, sugary drinks, and deceptive, healthy snacks. Replace them with whole foods that keep you satisfied: eggs, vegetables, nuts, meats, healthy fats, and water. These don't just fill your stomach, they calm your insulin response. You'll notice that when you stop snacking every couple of hours, your hunger becomes quieter, more predictable. Your body learns how to access stored energy again. That's what true metabolic flexibility feels like. The ability to go hours without crashing, to feel alert instead of anxious when you haven't eaten. Metabolic rest isn't about doing nothing. It's about giving your body the space to heal. Every time you stretch the gap between meals, your insulin levels drop a little more, and your body starts burning fat for fuel. The fatigue, the cravings, the brain fog all begin to fade. You start sleeping better, waking up with more energy, thinking more clearly. It's not a miracle, it's simply biology working as it should. The body has an incredible ability to repair itself when we stop overwhelming it. As Dr. Fung often says, your body was designed to heal. You just need to stop feeding the disease. That means reducing the foods that keep insulin high and trusting that your body knows what to do from there. Pay attention, not just to the numbers on the scale, but to how you feel. When you replace sugary foods with real nourishment, your energy stabilizes, your moods even out, and your hunger becomes more manageable. You'll notice you're no longer ruled by cravings or trapped in the constant need to eat. This isn't about being perfect, it's about progress. Each time you choose water instead of soda, each time you wait a little longer before your next meal, you're retraining your metabolism. These small moments compound, leading to bigger results than any restrictive diet ever could, and that's the real key. It's not another diet. It's a return to balance. Human beings were never meant to graze all day or live on processed carbs. Our ancestors ate real food, not food products. They went through periods of eating and fasting naturally. Their insulin levels rose and fell the way nature intended. By mimicking that rhythm again, we align with how our bodies are wired. We stop forcing them to store energy constantly and allow them to release it instead. That's when fat burning begins, not through punishments, but through understanding freedom from the sugar cycle doesn't come from cutting calories. It comes from cutting confusions. Once you see how hidden sugars and constant eating keep insulin high, you can take steps to reverse it. And the beauty of it is, your body responds quickly. Within days of reducing sugar and refined carbs, many people notice better energy, less bloating, fewer cravings. Within weeks, blood sugar starts to stabilize. Within months, insulin resistance begins to reverse. It's not magic. It's simply giving the body permission to function normally again. You don't need extreme discipline or a perfect plan. You just need awareness and consistency. Replace one habit at a time. Skip the sugary breakfast. Let your body rest between meals. Drink more water. Eat food that actually nourishes. The body will take care of the rest.
Hi, welcome to today's health tip. Today let's talk about calcium.
It happens through
We know that the
restoration.
body needs calcium to maintain strong bones and
Your
healthy
metabolism
teeth.
just
There are many
needs
sources
space
of
to reset.
calcium. For example,
Once you
leafy
stop
green
feeding the
vegetables,
disease,
dairy products,
you
and
allow
other
your
sources.
natural healing
Be sure to
systems
talk to
to
your
wake up
nutritionist
and
about
do
your
their
needs.
job when
Here's
you
wishing you a
understand
happy
this.
and healthy day.
You stop fearing food and start respecting it. You stop blaming yourself for a system designed to keep you addicted to sugar. And you start making choices from a place of power, not pressure. Because the real solution isn't another diet or detox. It's returning to how your body was meant to eat. Simple, natural, rhythmic. Feed when you need to, fast when you can, and let insulin rest. That's the escape plan. Not restriction, not willpower. Just alignment with the biology that has been working in your favor all along